Welcome to the JBR Download. I'm Craig Rickard, Executive Director of the Jonesboro Advertising and Promotion Commission, and we have a packed show for you on this podcast today. Coming up on the JBR Download, we're going to talk a lot of A-State football. We're going to talk to Brad Bobo, the guy who usually does the sidelines or does a lot of the sideline reporting for the team. He's going to have some insight into A-State athletics, the season we're going to have, and some of the really cool fan engagement events that will be happening through the season. And speaking of A-State, the new athletic director, Chris Pesman, will be joining us. We're going to talk about the new world of college sports, the nil deals, the revenue sharing, and how that plays out for A-State. We're also going to talk to him about his college playing days and how he was robbed of a touchdown during his playing days at the University of Houston. A fun story that he shares with us during that. Also, changes continue to happen in downtown Jonesboro. We're going to take a look at plans to change Main Street to that one lane of traffic. We'll have Martin Smith on from Ecological Design Group to talk to us about that and what those plan entails and how parking may or may not change because of the plans we have down there. And we're going to take a deep dive into tourism here in Arkansas in the natural state with Delaney Thomas. She is the Director of Tourism for the state of Arkansas. But first, let's take a look at that calendar of events happening here in Jonesboro. Big things happening in the next couple months here in Jonesboro. A lot of great concerts. Also, football returns to Centennial Bank Stadium here in just a couple of weeks. Southeast Missouri comes to the vault on October 30th. And you don't want to miss Paint the Town Red, the big block party. We have the night before, the 29th of August in downtown Jonesboro. They'll have the marching band, the cheerleaders, Coach Butch Jones, and some of the guys will be there. It's a real great just tailgate party to kind of kick off the season there on the block party in the entertainment district in downtown Jonesboro. That's on Friday the 20th. That same weekend, you think it's going to be a circus? It literally is going to be a circus. The All-American Circus is also in town the same night that we've got the football game going on. That's going to happen at the Equine Center up at Arkansas State University. So make sure you go to tourjonesboro.com to check out all the events happening, and you can even submit your own events to be part of the events calendar. I want to talk about concerts real quick because we got a full slate of concerts coming up in the coming weeks. We got the Barbecue Fest, of course, at the end of September. We're going to announce the band shortly on that. You've got the Sunken Land Songwriting Circle coming up with Roseanne Cash and Trisha Yearwood performing together at that. You've got Whiskey Myers coming. You've got Mercy Me and Toby Mack. You've got Dwight Yoakam and Ashley McBride. And you've got John Pardee coming to the First National Bank Arena this fall. So you want concerts? They're coming to Jonesboro. Go to tourjonesboro.com to get more information on all of that. Like I said, so many things to talk about this week. We also want to talk about the Ridge Athletic Center. I want to give you a quick update on that. We are catching up on the Ridge Athletic Center. Construction was a couple weeks behind because of all the rain we had in May. Thanks to these nice dry days, we are catching up. Crews are working on Saturdays as well to get us back on schedule to get the Ridge Athletic Center back on schedule for its opening in about a year and a half or so. We're very excited about that. The competition pool is dug. The pipe work is being done there. They're testing out the water pressure in that. So very soon we'll start working on that foundation and pouring concrete. But that's an update of things happening here in Jonesboro. Once again, go to tourjonesboro.com for all the latest on events happening in town. But now let's get started with our first guest. We're joined now on the JBR Download by Delaney Thomas. She is the Director of Tourism for the state of Arkansas. Delaney, welcome very much to the show.
Hello, Craig. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You know, when people talk about the big industries in the state of Arkansas, people think about, of course, they think of medicine, they think about agriculture. But I'll tell you, the big dog is tourism. I mean, where does tourism rank in all the things that economically drive our state?
Well, I think it might surprise most of the listeners to know that tourism is Arkansas's second largest industry in the state. So we're second to agriculture, which, as you know, is big business for the entire state, the Delta certainly as well. But yeah, Arkansas ranks number 2. And every day we wake up thinking about how do we continue to grow that tourism economy to just contribute to our state overall.
You talk about growing it, and it has been growing. I mean, we can kind of take those COVID years off the map, but even post-COVID, when things got back to normal, you're still seeing every year more people coming, more money being spent here. Where does that come from?
You're right, we do. And, we always, when we talk about COVID, it's like the years everyone wants to forget. But what was really special about COVID for Arkansas was that it really introduced a new group of travelers to the state who wanted to get outdoors. And ever since COVID, we've really reap the benefits of that traveler trend. So we do track our economic impact numbers annually. I know we just introduced those and we'll talk through those. But when we look at what tourism does to impact the overall economy, it's not just about what travelers spend, but it's what travelers spend that take a burden off of Arkansas residents as well.
Yeah, go into that a little bit. When you say what burden that takes off the residents, I think I know what you mean, but can you go a little deeper into what that definition would be?
Absolutely. So we just released our 2024 economic impact numbers. We put those numbers out annually in partnership with our research company, Tourism Economics, that we work with. We also work with a company called DK Shiplet that helps us pull our visitor volume. And what we released for 2024 was that Arkansas had over $10.3 billion in visitor spending, which was an all-time record for the state. And we saw over 50,000 visitors, 52 really, that came to Arkansas and contributed to that spend. So we're very pleased to continue to see that economy grow. And when we talk about what they're spending, it's not just on accommodations or the things you think about when a traveler comes in. It's not just the hotel that they booked, but it's also the food and beverage that they purchased while they were here. It's any of the shopping they do, certainly transportation, gas that's purchased. All of that goes into those economic impact numbers.
Okay, so Delaney, when we talk about visitors, I think a lot of people think that that means I'm on a vacation. But what is the definition of visitor? For instance, I was just in Northwest Arkansas for a couple days this week. I mean, I live in Arkansas. I'm still in Arkansas, but I'm a visitor, right?
You certainly are, yeah. So we define visitor as anyone that has traveled 50 miles or more. So that can be from out of state, from in state. All of that counts into what we look at as a visitor. We also try to make sure, that they dwell within a certain area for a length of time to make sure that we're not getting that commuter traffic. It really helps us remove who is traveling for business travel versus who's traveling to stay overnight or spend more time in the destination.
Yeah, we talk about business travel versus recreational travel, I guess. I don't know if that's the right term, but where's the breakdown in that? I mean, if people come to town for a conference and they're stuck in, lectures, incredibly exciting lectures all day long, um, is that business, recreational? How do we define that?
That would be business travel. Certainly, there's both pieces that make it up. So we define it through leisure and business. Right now, we're not tracking or breaking the two out in terms of visitor numbers, but many people, myself included, probably people listening to this, when you travel for a meeting, a conference, if you're a parent that has a kiddo that plays sports and you travel for tournament ball, you are a business traveler. And when you go into market and you choose to stay there longer, you're turning into what the travel industry loves to call bleisure travel. So business and leisure by extending your stay, staying in market longer. And we get a lot of benefit from those business events that we bring into the state.
It's always good. And now, I know that you guys target specific areas of the country. You do what we call, excuse me, activations, where we go to different markets and we set up some incredible things and try to get people's interest to come visit the state. What are some of your key markets, some of our key markets that we're going after, and what are some of the ones we're going to look at in the future?
Arkansas, we look at our markets in two different definitions. So we have our key feeder, which we look at as those drive markets. Everything you would think that's traditional, again, can be in an in-state market, as well as the markets that are out of state that can get here within a 4 to 5 hour drive. Outside of that, we start to look at what is more of a long haul market. So somewhere that it could be drivable, but more times than not, they're probably going to be taking a flight to get here. And when we look at those markets, we're trying to find what makes the most sense in what we offer as a destination, coupled with who perhaps has a direct flight to the state. So some of those markets that we've been really targeting lately would be Chicago, Illinois, Denver, Colorado, just a couple. And I know Salt Lake City is something that'll be coming online soon. So we'll be looking at how do we target those markets to help them think about Arkansas as a travel destination.
We have so many things to offer in this state. We have so many great outdoor things. We have great indoor venues as well. What do you see is that maybe that number one, number two thing that really pulls people in? I'm going to guess it has to do with outdoor rec.
Certainly, Arkansas is the natural state. So outdoor recreation is key to what we offer. And what we really see as special within within outdoor recreation is it's something the entire state offers. We all have beautiful landscapes, whether that is the cycling in Jonesboro with the new trails that have been opened there within the last year, certainly rock climbing, hiking, paddling. No matter what corner of the state you go to, there's an opportunity for outdoor recreation. So that's certainly one of our key drivers. It's what we're really focusing on from a marketing standpoint. It's where we feel like Arkansas has a right to win. We're always looking at, what are the places and the pieces of tourism and travel that the state can own, and certainly outdoor recreation is the lead for that.
And what's, I guess, the return on investment? I know the state puts significant dollars into tourism. Do you have a ratio, a breakdown of what every dollar we spend, from Jonesboro, resident citizens, is returned to us from these visitors?
Yeah, we have a couple of different things that we look at, not really one specific number that's a complete return on investment. We do track all of our marketing and advertising to look at the impact of flights that are booked as a result of the digital marketing that we have, as well as hotels that are booked. We're actually in the process of, in this next calendar year and fiscal year, we'll be working on a marketing impact study that will give us what our direct return on investment is. I think the last time we did that study, it was about $90 to $1 for every marketing dollar that we spent. So we'll be releasing some updated numbers on that in the next year, but we are always looking at which markets are returning with people that are coming here, are spending money in market. Arkansas is unique in that we're a great place for a value-based traveler. You can do a lot with a smaller budget. You can also do a lot just because of our proximity. You can get from one location to the other without being in the car for 6 hours or however long it might take you to travel if you're out west. So for us, it's really about continuing to refine our marketing and find where we're having that impact with travelers.
One of the things that really seems to drive, at least up here in the Delta, is duck hunting. Um, Once again, that's just one of those things we see people coming in every year. And I went through the numbers you sent out, and the Delta region here, Delta byways, $1.2 billion in visitor spending. I think in
Mhm.
fiscal year 2024 is a calendar year or fiscal year that you put those numbers on.
We look at fiscal year.
Because a
So
fiscal year
June or July
2024,
through June.
yeah, July through June, $1.2 billion. And that's just here in the Delta, Arkansas Delta region. I think people would stand back and go, "Are you kidding me?" But that just shows the importance statewide. It's not just about Northwest Arkansas. It's not just about Little Rock. There's a lot to offer on this side of the state as well. What are some of the things that you see getting a lot of attention out of your vantage point in Little Rock?
Yeah, well, and I'll add, so that was the number for all of the Delta byways. But if we just looked at Craighead County alone, Craighead County always ranks pretty much in the last few years, we're seeing within the top 5 counties in the state of Arkansas for traveler impact. So for 2024, Craighead County saw a visitor spend of $324.9 million, which was a 3.6 increase over the previous year, which means Jonesboro and the county that you sit in, you're ranking up there with a lot of the tourism leaders, Pulaski County, Benton, Washington. And I think what we see that is a really unique thing within the Delta. Certainly, we see travelers who come in for the culture, the rich music history that exists there. But Jonesboro specifically, you all have had these new, we call them new rides that come on, right? Whether it's your trail system continuing to grow, having one of our state's leading universities, certainly that brings in a traveler base that's coming in to participate in the Arkansas State University athletic system and be a spectator at those games. You mentioned duck hunting. Arkansas is the duck hunting capital of the world, and we know that travelers come nationally, internationally to experience that. So it's really the blend of all that the community offers that continues to help see that travel grow.
Well, we think so. Delaney, thanks for that. You talk about the new rides. We're in the process, of building the Ridge Athletic Center up here. One of those things that people, if you're a parent of a kid that's in sports, you know about the importance and the value and how much we parents, us parents spend on these travel sports. Jonesboro, we're just a couple blocks from sitting right here. We're building the Ridge Athletic Center, a 200,000 square foot, $74 million facility, 12 basketball courts, 24 volleyball courts, indoor competition pool, outdoor aquatics. I mean, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's a new ride. Sports, travel sports, part of this travel economy. Is that an area where this state is really growing?
It 100% is. I mean, you mentioned everything. I think sports, when I go out and I talk to people who know nothing about tourism, a lot of us can relate to sports tourism because you either grew up doing it or, to your point, your kid is now someone that you're the parent that you are traveling to go see them play ball. And tourism organizations like the state, like the A&P in Jonesboro, we actively go out and we recruit those teams to come to Arkansas, to come to our communities to host their tournaments. And with the new facilities that we see coming online, what you're building in Jonesboro, the community of Cabot opened one last year. And I will use Cabot as an example of they have seen a huge impact, not only on just the tourism numbers that you would expect in terms of accommodation, but I know that their food and beverage scene has just been booming. They had a lot of restaurants that weren't really sure, how is this facility going to change our community? And many of those restaurants are now having to update their kitchens with new equipment to make sure that they can keep up with the demand of these teams. Kiddos play sports all day and then they've got to go eat, of course. So a lot of from that community, what I've heard is just how they're now seeing the trickle down impact of that travel economy and how that's leading to updates at a lot of the culinary scene there.
We're talking an average, I think, of 54,000 additional room nights in Jonesboro per year when this comes online in a little over a year and a half from now, hopefully. You talk about sports. Now, update me on this. Are you guys working on a new section of the website that's going to focus on sports? I know at one time we were talking about that. Where does that stand right now?
Yes, we're working on a complete new website. So, Arkansas.com is undergoing a major rebuild. We'll be launching a new site in early 2026 that will go live. Sports tourism, group tourism will be a major focus of building out that site to help lift up our communities. Arkansas also has a sports planner guide that we work to put out each year. We're actually working on releasing the new one right now, and that helps us spotlight communities across the state with what the sports tourism offerings are.
When you talk about sports in this state as well, a lot of folks think about bikes, mountain bikes, gravel cycling. This new chairlift, bike lift, I think it's down in Mina. Is that online? Are people loving that right now?
We are so excited. It has been a process, and I think what's really special about MENA is it's a great example of what happens when local leadership, from your mayor's office, your city, to your tourism organization locally, work well with not only state government but the federal government. This has been a great project that took our state parks team working with the Forest Service, and we had a momentous signing down in MENA a month or so ago with the governor signing into action what is going to move that project forward to build what will be the world's largest lift-served mountain bike trail, specifically for mountain biking, that'll be open year-round. That's a huge accolade for the state. We've also got a lift-served mountain bike trail as well that'll be coming online in Bella Vista. So it's just a great time in Arkansas to continue to see those trails develop, and not just in Northwest Arkansas, but it's happening all over the state.
Yeah, I just heard about the one in Bella Vista a couple days ago when I was over there. I was just real close to it and have time to check it out. That's going to be privately run, though, right?
Yes, that'll be privately run. I think that one's planned to come online within the next 12 to 18 months. For MENA, we're looking several years out, but we're now in the process of really getting those bids out to bring in an operator who will be helping build out that park there.
So cool. So let's pat ourselves in the back. The state is killing it. We're doing great in terms of tourism. Second biggest industry, like you said, in the state. But we always try to find ways to improve. Where are some things where you think we can do better? Not that we're not doing it bad, but where are some things where we can, fine tune, do a little bit better?
Yeah. We can always get better, certainly, but where we have two main focus points in this next year, one is looking at our in-state travel. We've talked about that a little bit, but Arkansas last year in calendar year 2024 ranked number one for in-state movement. So people moving in-state from out of state in the country. Like we ranked number one for that. So we know that we have a lot of new Arkansan residents who are not from Arkansas. If you look at Northwest Arkansas specifically, 50% of people have lived there 5 years or less, and many of them haven't left Northwest Arkansas. So we see a great deal of opportunity in not only reintroducing Arkansans to the places that they've traveled, the places they've known, but reaching these new Arkansans to really making them recognize and show them how they can love the state that they've, chosen to call home. The other area that we see opportunity is really building the 365-day message. So, Arkansas, we are fortunate that pretty much every day of the year you can play outside. Some days are hotter than others, but we're home to a milder climate when you look at the winter seasons. So we've been working to identify those markets, some of which we talked about earlier, whether that's Denver or Chicago, that have really harsher winters. They can't mountain bike, they can't hike. And so we're trying to reach those markets now with messaging that encourages them to come down and experience Arkansas during November, December, and even into January, some of our better months to be outside and enjoy trails. So I think looking at who our markets are and when we reach them is going to be a really critical way to help us build that year-round travel.
Right. And remind people that live here what we have to offer. Don't take it for granted, for sure. Okay, before I let you go, you've been great, but there's a big thing happening here in a few weeks. It's happening in Little Rock. Finally, Arkansas versus Arkansas State. Can I put you on the spot? Did you go to U of A? I don't know where you went to school. Do you want to talk about this game?
I would love to talk about this game. So no, I did not go to University of Arkansas. I also did not go to Arkansas State University. I went to Ouachita Baptist.
You're good.
So
Yeah.
Go Tigers, I guess. But we are so excited to have this Arkansas's game in Little Rock. War Memorial State is one of our state park run facilities. So it's very near and dear to us at Parks, Heritage, and Tourism because our state parks team works to make that game a success. We are so excited to have both universities, both fan bases be in Little Rock. We've done a lot of work with the Little Rock Convention and Visitor Bureau to build out a really fun week for fans to come in, stay the entire weekend in Little Rock. There's going to be live music in the River Market you can check out. Sure, of course, that whole day Saturday is going to be a fun time. I think Arkansas State is actually having a tailgate at the Little Rock Zoo, so that'll be an amazing event to come in and check out. But, we're just really grateful to have so much of Arkansas come into the capital city and enjoy that event.
It's about time these two teams play each other in football. I got to say, I've been here for 23 years, and it's about stinking time. That's what I'm going to say.
I love that. Did you graduate from Arkansas State?
No, I'm a Midwesterner. I went to University of Iowa. So I will be keeping close eye on that Iowa State versus ASU game coming up in a couple weeks. That's actually the weekend after the U of A State game. It's Iowa State down here. So I have a lot of friends and family that are Cyclone fans. I'm hoping to send home in a very sad mood as my adopted Red Wolves knock out those stinking Cyclones.
That's great. Well, whatever we can do to help, we always want to give travel inspiration. And I guess as tourism director, I have to say like woo wolf or something like that. But I just hope everybody has fun.
Wolves up. Wolves up. That's what you do. All right. Delaney Thomas, Director of Tourism for the state of Arkansas. Thanks for taking time. I know you got a million things to do. We appreciate you coming by the JBR download today.
Thanks, Craig.
Back here on the JBR download, one of the things that people are talking about in the city of Jonesboro is something that's been kind of going on for a while and starting to get some teeth. It's a change to the way traffic moves in downtown Jonesboro. We have already instituted the ordinance that says no trucks going through Main Street in that 200 400 block. But now there's a new move on to possibly make Main Street one lane. Joining us now is Martin Smith from the Ecological Design Group. Martin, thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
So we tasked you with drawing up a potential plan to change downtown Jonesboro, Main Street, that like 200 to 400 block, I think it is, from 2 lanes to 1 lane, but still going one way. We're not showing the pictures just yet because it hasn't gone before all the right committees and everything. But what are some of the challenges in doing this plan?
I think it's a fascinating idea, and I've got a lot of history of Jonesboro, and I know exactly firsthand, the issues with. I would expect probably 8 to 9 cars out of 10 are moving through downtown Jonesboro going north, and instead of stopping as a destination. So I understand the complexities of trying to develop your Main Street as a destination place. And so this idea is really fascinating. We've looked at a lot of master plans, a lot of studies and things have been done for this exact purpose. And I think one key is, how do you do something that isn't going to cost millions of dollars. And I think I've lived in the Delta pretty much my whole life, besides 10 years in Austin, Texas. And being back here, one thing I know is that there's not finances or money to do large scale projects. So you really have to think on your feet and look at your existing assets you have and how to put those things together. So I think that's the fascinating thing. And we came up with a plan that does not change any of the existing infrastructure as a phase one option. It simply just restripes the existing current conditions and allows. I'll be happy to extend on that as much as you want.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of the things there. It seems like you have so many options, but then you're also limited because of the width of the street, proximity to the sidewalks and buildings. There's only so much you can do. And we talked to people at Downtown Jonesboro Alliance. We talked to Andy Shatley's connectivity, and we came up with this idea. You guys came up with the idea to make it one lane, but are we talking a nice, big, wide, comfortable lane with a bike lane? How does that existing space break down?
So the existing infrastructure is a street section of 35 feet from front of curb to front of curb, not counting the pedestrian sidewalks to the buildings. That all stays exactly the same, no modifications. So we have 35 feet to work with. The controlling factor there is the fire safety. The fire chief, fire marshal, the fire trucks will require a 20-foot clear lane to be able to fight fires along Main Street. So the existing section includes a 7.5-foot parallel parking, two 10-foot one-way lanes, and then another 7.5-foot parallel parking. So staying within that 35 feet, our proposal is keeping the 7.5-foot parallel parking. I'm going from, say, west to east. Okay. So on the west side, the 7.5-foot parallel parking, a 2-foot buffer to allow for a little bit of safety getting out on the traffic side, then a 10-foot one-way travel lane, then a 6-foot, what we're calling is a bike lane. So basically it's a lane free of cars. So just keep that in mind. I think it being a bike lane, it doesn't necessarily connect anything now to the north and the south, but it provides an opportunity to connect from Washington or down to Kate as you come into Main Street. And then on the east side of that bike lane is another 2-foot buffer, and then you have the existing 7.5-foot parallel parking. So it equals 35 feet from front of curb to front of curb.
So you talk about the different types of parking and I guess the rules that come with it. If there was an opportunity to make the angled, as I call it, parking, the incline parking, and that's going to come out farther than parallel parking, does that change things? Could you have that angled parking on both sides of the street, or would that eliminate not having enough space then for the fire safety at 20 feet?
It would, and that follows in a phase two, which I don't think that will be provided visually now, just to keep everything simple and show the existing infrastructure. But we did look at that study, and doing angled parking, it would be on the west side only. We'd have to eliminate the parking on the east side. So all the parking would come in angle, and you've got to have that but after you've got to have a wider back out lane. So essentially you still have a 10-foot lane, but then you have the 6-foot bicycle, and I think it's 7. I think the angled parking is close to 17 feet or 17.5 or something. We could add that up, and it comes up to 35. But to answer your question is, you cannot have parking on both sides if we go to the angle, and you would lose. You gain, you gain parking by doing the angle, but as far as like on one side of the street, you'd have more on one side, but you would lose ultimately, not a significant amount, but you would lose overall parking in the street section.
Things that people don't consider. They look at the space. I've done this. I've done the measurements. I've been looking at it saying, well, we'd get more spaces if we went with this angled parking, but there are regulations
Yeah.
And also, it would probably create some infrastructure issues and make the project more expensive. So thanks for explaining that. Have you seen this? I mean, you work with a lot of towns. Have you seen a plan like this put into action in other communities?
I would just say that, complete streets or it's different. You don't want to just take a cookie cutter from one place and put it in another. We need to make this work for Main Street, Jonesboro. And so it is a philosophy that would it kind of flips the script where right now, obviously, the vehicles own the street or feel like they own the street. And by doing this, it would definitely flip the script where you'd feel the pedestrians would own it. And I think what would happen, and I think when the street was shut down, there wasn't really, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't think there was a lot of just like uproar of, we've got to get this street back open. So that shows that, and let's think about going back to the 400, the block that's at Washington.
Right.
So as you approach, across Washington, from the south side, it's 2 lanes still, and then on the north side would be 1 lane. So as you approach, you'd have to put signage that the right hand lane is a right hand turn only.
Right.
And so so it's going to force you if you're moving if you're in that right hand lane, it's going to force you to turn right and go over to um, Church Street, right? And then Church goes down the Kate, and you're right back. And that's what I think what most of the traffic probably was doing. I'm not sure how people were traversing through. So it's just a natural flow, and it turns downtown Jonesboro into a destination.
Yeah, and that's what we're going for. Well, you touched on a little bit. You talked about the Citizens Bank demolition. You talked about that entrance to the Main Street down there. The Citizens Bank property is now gone. It's a green space, for lack of a better term, right now. And this is what you do. I mean, you spend your days thinking about how a community can improve itself through parks, through trails, through smart planning. What do you see there? I don't want to put you on the spot, but everybody has said it needs to be this, it needs to be that. What do you see as a real benefit to the community going in that spot?
And I don't know if I'm going to answer that directly because it takes so much more analysis to really figure that out. But I will say that
what do we not want?
Well,
that way. There's a question.
What you don't want is something that attracts a lot more cars to the area. I mean, right in the middle. When I call, is it Union to Church? I mean, that's kind of the heart of downtown. You need your cars in the parking, honestly, to be on the peripheral, and where the Rotary Park is and the new public parking space over there. That's perfect because that's really easy, accessible to get to. And then it feeds you right into the core of downtown. The core of downtown needs to be pedestrian oriented.
Right.
So whatever is there needs to be a foot oriented, pedestrian type plaza. It could be what we're doing a lot right now is taking spaces like that and not over designing them, but making them to where they're extremely flexible, that all sorts of types of programming could take place there. And that way it doesn't back you into a corner.
Right.
And because I mentioned this the other day, I've been doing this for 30 years. And now with the advancement of technology, what changed in my past 30 years in this profession, I see now in 3 years, I'm going to see the same amount of advancement, which is mind blowing. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to. So when I say that, when we're designing a space for a particular function, I think we're making a mistake because times are changing so fast. Let's keep them flexible.
I like the way you're thinking about that flexibility, not just, pigeonholing yourself into one thing. And I look at that space, it's got that L shape, it's kind of oddly shaped. And of course, there's things to sort out with who owns what right now. But, I was in Northwest Arkansas, in Bentonville, the last couple of days, and they've got that town square in downtown Bentonville. And it's slightly smaller, doing a quick measurement on Google Earth, than the property we have here in Jonesboro. And they've got that fountain, they've got the benches. It's a place for people to gather. And as a resident of Jonesboro, 23 years, even taking away, it's my job to make this town, hospitable and want people to come here. I feel like we don't have a town square. I'm not saying it has to be a square, but I think there's a real opportunity there. And when you talk about a flexible space, I mean, how well does that work? It just seems like common sense to have something like that in the heart of your city.
I agree with you 100%, Craig, that having an urban type plaza, that a town square type of space makes sense, and keeping it flexible, that it's only as successful as the programming that goes into the place. And I've been back in rural Arkansas. If you go to Bentonville, you've got all these different events, and it's just the amount of people and everything else. And you look behind the scenes, there's a lot going on as far as like programming. It's created, it's curated to bring people in and do that. And I learned really quick that build it and they will not, and build it and they will come. It's not necessarily true, because everybody's so busy running their kids to sports activities, church events, and that's rural America just kind of gets inundated with those aspects. So it must be programmed, and it must be programmed well. I think that the citizens want other things to do, but they just aren't going to show up unless it's programmed and activated for them.
That's a great way to say it. That's something we've had some talks with the city leadership and other groups in town that, like I said, we all like the line from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. But but it doesn't necessarily work that way. Shiny and new doesn't always bring the people. And I like what you're saying about 9 out of 10 cars are coming through downtown Jonesboro, not stopping there. What are some other ways the mindset can be changed? Certainly the physical things we see, the new streets, that gets our attention. But where is the point that communities really need to follow through after they get something built?
I will say I see some good things happening in downtown Jonesboro. And if we can continue to move some of these type of things forward, I'm going to flip back to maybe 10 years ago and sitting down at a round table of leaders in Northwest Arkansas and Bentonville. And the one point that I made to the committee was, and we all knew it, but that, as you mentioned it earlier, that square, the Bentonville Square cannot, it is not sized appropriately for the amount of population basis that's coming in there.
Right.
So it's been an active, and I see this every time I go back up there, an active philosophy or decision was made to try to move our public parking out, say about 3 blocks, 4 blocks, to what a real downtown square needs to be for the scale of where the growth is going. And so you grab all the cars and then let's get them out of their cars and then walking,
Right.
So you're squeezing. And so that's what I say with Jonesboro, you want to squeeze those cars out of that core and make it easy for people to park and get into the pedestrian core. So in the same sense, that's kind of happening. And you see that happening in Bentonville. So then the square then starts to be another block and another block. And it's different type of urban fabric that starts to fit the scale of the space. I don't know if I answered your question there or not, but
I love the term urban fabric. I think I'm going to steal that.
Well, you have a wonderful opportunity to do kind of an urban type square that's flexible, programmed and whatnot. The other thing looking at downtown Jonesboro that was missing was a large green space. Mm-hmm. And I know that what we're talking about is a green space, but it's probably not large enough to do what I want to do. And that needs to be a destination place for festivals, just an open park space to provide something else, take the pressure off of Main Street and expand it out.
Exactly. Martin, thank you very much for all your insight and giving us some things to think about and explaining things further, because I think people get a little jittery when they start hearing about traffic, being changed, about the way their habits might have to change in the next coming months and years. So thanks for putting that out there and explaining it very well.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me. And the last thing I want to say is that, I really am I work for these small towns in the Arkansas Delta, and I learned very quickly that they all look at Jonesboro as the shining star, and they want to follow what Jonesboro does. So I figured out the best thing to do is to go to Jonesboro and try to get some of these type of things implemented in order to make a difference in the small rural communities, so here we go.
Right. Martin Smith, Ecological Design Group, thank you very much for being on the JBR Download.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, I tell you, we are so excited about A-State football season getting started here in just a couple of weeks. Joining us now on the JBR Download is Mr. Brad Bobo. This guy knows A-State inside and out for so many years, doing the sidelines and stuff there for the Red Wolves. I mean, I know you're director of fan engagement. I'm not sure exactly what your title is. Just you get to have the fun stuff. And you got Howell right over your shoulder there. How excited are you that this time of year is upon us?
Well, excited. The fan of me is excited. The associate AD in me is scared. Uh, you know, those are two wildly different roles because, like fans, uh, you know, they get all fired up. They start these countdowns 100 days out, and the
Right.
smaller the number gets, the more fired up they get. And I'm looking at all that. And the smaller the number gets, the more I freak out. But
Stuff we do.
I'm excited to see this team. Really, more than anything, I'm excited to get our fans together. And I know we'll get deeper into this, but I'll just come out and say, I posed this question on my own social media a little while back, and I haven't really gotten anybody that's made an argument that could change my opinion that this is the best home schedule in the history of the program. In its totality. When you look at the 6 teams coming in here, where they are as programs, the years they had a season ago. I've had a couple people maybe put other years in contention, and let's go look them side by side, and nothing's measured up. I think this is the best home schedule in the history of the program.
Well, I got to say, I've been here for 23 years, and this will be my 23rd, 24th season keeping tabs on this team. And I was blown away when I saw, several months ago that Iowa State is coming. Now, I'm from Iowa. I throw that out there, but I'm not a Cyclone man. I'm a Hawkeye all the way. I want to see the Cyclones I want to see them win every game, typically every year, except the Hawkeyes. And now I want to see them go home crying twice. I want to see A-State just pound them into the ground. They can win everything else except Iowa and A-State. How did a Big 12 team, how did we get a team of this caliber? I think they're preseason 18, 19, coming to Jonesboro.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. The answer to that question is that this contract, remember, we went to Ames last year. So this is a straight up home and home.
Sure.
This contract was executed and announced, I believe, in either March or May of 2014.
Really? You're kidding me. It was that long ago?
It was that far out. Yeah. And it was, when it was announced in 2014, it was for 2024 and 2025.
That is
So
amazing.
it hadn't even been pushed back in. So
Wow.
that really is the answer to your question, because if you go back, let's say 4 years out, let's say a lot of that scheduling is done typically maybe 4 years out, you're probably not getting that.
Right.
But in 2014, you could. And so that's how you get Iowa State coming to town. It's a contract that was signed 10 years ago, 11.
That is fascinating. I had no idea that was the case. I know you planned this stuff a couple years in advance, but I would not have, you'd have told multiple choice me on that. I would not have picked that.
Right. And like the Arkansas game, for example, was signed 4 years ago. That contract was in 2021. That's probably about the going rate for football, trying to work that far out. But yeah, 11's pretty extreme. But yeah, this is an 11-year-old deal.
Talking about the home slate of games are incredible. Iowa State, more on that in a minute. But the game that all Red Wolves fans have had circled on their calendar for years now, and you talked about it, is Arkansas finally. Arkansas State in Little Rock. How exciting is it to finally get this chance for these in-state rivals to play each other?
It's exciting. I wonder sometimes, truth be told, if it's at its peak excitement, because and I don't want to take away from the excitement, but there's also it's about time. What took so long? It's like sort of vibe to it, but it's fun to go to Little Rock. We haven't been in Little Rock in a long time. We played a home game in Little Rock against Oklahoma State probably 20 years ago or more, and really haven't been back down there since. But yeah, to get this game that fans have clamored for a long time, it's exciting. And I go back to being here, in 2005 when the women's teams got paired up in the WNIT, and it was a game in Jonesboro. And I could remember, our athletic director at the time, after we won the game 98-84, 10,892 people in the arena that night. But I could remember, the AD going into the locker room after the game and telling our teams, like, you didn't just win this game tonight. You didn't just win it for the 10,892 people here, but you won it for everybody that wore this uniform before you that didn't get a chance to play it. And I do think and I hope, clearly the fans are excited. I hope our players get that, because you understand, like, a great number of players, the majority of your team's not from the state of Arkansas. And in this day and age, a great many of your players probably haven't been even here that long to understand what this means to so many people. I know they're going to hear it. I know they've already heard it. And I have no doubt that they're going to understand it as well as they can. 1 month from yesterday, as we're recording this, now inside a month even from that ball game. So but I keep uncovering kind of cool little angles with this, and I'll give you one. For example, earlier this week, Roy Painter, a Hall of Honor member at Arkansas State, a member of our 1975 undefeated team that we're honoring later this season, he was in my office and reminded me, Roy's a Hall of Honor member at Arkansas State, played on the undefeated team here. His son Zach played at Arkansas. They're going to be sitting side by side at War Memorial Stadium in that game. And how cool is that?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of those stories. My kid went to A-State, I went to Arkansas. That's going to be coming from a state, like I said, Iowa State, you have these fun family rivalries. And it'll be so great if we can keep this going, because every state needs that in-state rival. We've got to keep that game going. It's so incredible. We're so excited to finally get that opportunity. You talk about the home games, Iowa State, SEMO. I mean, we're starting off this season with a bang. Those first 3 great games are incredible. For the people that come to Centennial Bank Stadium, for those who might not have made it to many games, I mean, what is the fan experience going to be like this year, in addition to just some great football?
Well, there are going to be some new things, and really, you're trying to pry some scoop out of me here, because there's some stuff we haven't even talked about yet that's going to be happening from a fan engagement standpoint as it pertains to the video board.
Nice.
We've gone into business with a company that if you go check out their website and who they work with, like, the first thing you'll see is here's what we do at the Super Bowl. Here's what we did at the NBA All-Star Weekend. This is what we did with this NFL team. Here's what we did on the Dell's World Tour. I mean, this is the type of people they work with, and now they're going to work with the Red Wolves. So I'm excited for our fans to get here and see that. And then, something we've done now for 3 straight years that a lot of places, period, don't do, and certainly I don't know that anyone in our league does, is that, with the help of some of our great partners with Red Wolf Sports Properties, we're able to have a promotional giveaway item at all 6 home games. Most places in our league might do 1, maybe 2, but for now, for 3 straight years, they'll put something in people's hands every ball game. Is something we're excited about, and there's some pretty cool giveaway items.
Can you
especially late in the year?
Tell us some of the stuff that's going to be given away?
Yeah, so this is not as much scoop, because this one's kind of they've been out, but like everything's sort of with a reason. There's nothing is the giveaway item on that day by accident.
Right.
So, like, in the opener, Big River Steel's helping us provide the cooling towels, like cooling towels that have the entire schedule on.
Nice.
That's the giveaway in the opener. Come back for Iowa State. St. Bernard's has helped us. That's a 3:00 game on September 13th. So we've got what they call these Banga banners that you get as a sign. Mm-hmm. It folds into a fan, but then once it's folded into a fan, you also take it, and it's a noisemaker.
Nice.
And it makes a surprising amount of noise. So that's for Iowa State.
Yeah.
In October 4th, when Texas State comes here,
yeah.
We're honoring the 1975 team. So we have a banner, like a mini banner that celebrates that team that we're giving away. And then another couple of good ones. I'll skip to the month of November. because on November 8th, it's our Heroes Day, so we're giving away Barton's EC Barton and Company's helped with a digital camo cap with that A State logo that has the stars and stripes inside it for Heroes Day. And then I want people here all the time, and certainly want to make sure you've got Thursday, November 20th circled, because ESPN is coming to town for the Thursday night game against the Cajuns, final home game of the year, and the giveaway item. 2 years ago, Commerce Solutions helped us do a DeMario Davis bobblehead.
Yeah.
And those guys have been sitting on go trying to figure out what's the next bobblehead. Right. The next bobblehead is November 20th, and it is Howell on his motorcycle.
Oh, that's great. I thought you were going to say it was a Brad Bobo bobblehead. I thought that.
Those are two. Like they'd be built to scale.
It's going to tip over.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, thank you very much. Let's talk about the team just real quick. I mean, mixed bag of predictions. This team, we got a lot of stuff coming back. And you look at this last year, that defense needed help. I mean, no one wants you get to hear the chatter all the time. Mm-hmm. Have we found some ways to shore up this defense?
I do think so. I mean, I think that's staff wise. I think it's roster wise. The thing about this day and age is that, like, if you do have a deficiency somewhere, obviously you have the ability to flip that deficiency really quick, as much roster turnover as there is. And you say, as you said, kind of a mixed bag of predictions. I think that's everywhere in the country, across the board.
Right.
Even when, from a media standpoint, when I was doing a radio show, I mean, preseason polls have always been pretty worthless.
Oh, of course.
They've never been more worthless than they are right now.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows anything about anybody. Like, I don't know how you think these coaches are going to know what they expect out of everybody else in the league when they're trying to figure out their own roster.
Well, exactly. And as a fan, you sit there and say, that guy, number so-and-so.
Yeah, everybody has they started fall camp and everybody in the country is wearing like "Hello, my name is" stickers on their jersey. But so I'll say this to your point with the defense. That there was a big, almost a big change in philosophy, some staff changes there, and then again you can immediately go address your deficiencies in the portal, and I think they've done that. People who obviously I can have candid enough conversations with that if they were concerned, they'd tell me. They all seem pretty excited about this team and what it can turn into. And that's legit. I mean, they would know that if something was amiss or they were really worried about something, they could tell me and it would stay with me. And that's not the messaging I'm getting. Everybody says, I like this team and I think they've got a shot.
Excellent. Well, I think 8-5 last year.
Yeah, 8-5 again.
Jalen Rayner's coming back. I mean, I think
the third best record since you've been back at the Division I level. 8 wins is the third most. Sometimes it's like you almost felt like his team is really weird. Like they almost got stuck, like having to apologize for winning 8 games in a bowl.
Right.
Not many people won 8 games in a bowl.
I know.
Their win total has gone up 3 straight years.
Right.
So there's 4 teams in the country that can say that.
Yeah. Which is doing a good job.
And as you mentioned, Jalen Rayner back. I mean, you got a 3-year starter at quarterback. Corey Rucker for his senior year. Jaquez Cross, one of the most dangerous kind of multi-purpose players in the league. It's exciting, and and hopefully people listen to this. If you're listening to this, no matter kind of what your affiliation is, you've got some kind of soft spot for Jonesboro, even if it is an Arkansas State. There are lots of great events in this town, but we really feel like 6 of the biggest. I won't say what I want to say and call these 6 biggest, but I'll say 6 of the biggest events in this city in a given year are the home football games. So hopefully we can get everybody on board.
Sounds good. Brad Bobo from Arkansas State, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us in the JBR Download. First game, August 30th against SEMO, and Wolves up, man.
Wolves up.
Like we said, A-State Athletics is kind of the talk of the town this time of year, and joined now by the new, I still go with athletic director, I think Vice Chancellor of Student Athletics and all the fun stuff. How about that? Chris Pesman joins us now. Chris,
I answer to a lot of things, most of them good, I hope.
Yes, exactly. So, hey, man, welcome to town. First of all, you've been in town a little over a month. What led you to accepting this job at Arkansas State?
Great question. You know, I had worked with people that had been at A State before, between Terry Mohajer, who is at Central Florida, as Houston and Central Florida and Cincinnati were navigating their way into the Big 12. David Rear and Brian Gerwig I worked with. We had hired David Rear from Arkansas State to Houston to be our volleyball coach, and Brian came back here to be the head coach. And then Jason Penry is somebody that was in development here, and I got to know through the course of business living in Houston. And all of them, through my time of knowing them, had spoken so highly of A State. And then the opportunity presented itself, and I had had some conversations with each of those three, and to a person, they're like, "Hey, it's a no-brainer. It's an incredible opportunity, and it's great town and even better people." And I've gotten here, and it's been, they undersold it. If anything, it's been even better than we could hope. The people are fantastic. The university is on the rise. There's so much positive energy here, and Jonesboro is a great town. It's the right size. And, to tell you how much we wanted it, we took the job without ever having been in Jonesboro. I interviewed in Little Rock and never had made it to Jonesboro before accepting the position, but it has been everything we'd hoped for and more.
It's great to hear. Thank you for the kind words about our community. We're proud of it and glad you're part of it now. Um, you were at Cal, you were at Houston. You mentioned the size of this town. Is there something attractive about coming to a town the size of Jonesboro versus a big city like Houston?
Yes, sir. I'd always been in larger areas. I grew up in Southern California and then moved to Houston. Then I was in Northern California and then came back to Houston. It's not a negative. It's just with the reality of being in major markets. It's easy to get lost, despite the levels of success that you may be having. Um, there's just so much going on in those larger markets. And coming to a town like Jonesboro, 90,000 ish, 150,000 on any given day. It just feels right. And our ability to stand out in the community and be integrated into the community is something that really was something that we were looking forward to and have been enjoying since we've been here. It has been incredible. And to your point about A State and the excitement around the institution, one thing in particular that really attracted us here was the alignment within the university. From the top down, everybody understands and respects each other and are working together to try and find common grounds to have success. And that is something that you don't find everywhere, and something I certainly see here and don't take for granted, and am very thankful for with Dr. Shields and Dr. Kelly's leadership and our university leadership as well.
You talk about coming to a smaller community and a smaller university, but there's going to be some challenges that go with that. Now, you talk about people, there's not as many competing things, but, hey, we're A-State. We don't have the oil industry here. We don't have those billion-dollar alums. Does that make this job maybe a little more challenging than, say, the Houston or other bigger universities you've been at?
No, not at all. It's all scalable, up and down. I think the challenges that you have at, A State are similar to the challenges you have at Houston or Texas. It's just, in those situations, it's just order of magnitude. But the fun thing here is the only thing limiting ourselves is ourselves. If you think about, I'll use Iowa and Iowa State as an example. Two state institutions in an ag-based economy in an ag-based region, and both of them stand out very prominently within the academic and sports climate and universe. There's nothing here that keep us from doing the same thing, and that is what gets me really excited. And what I appreciate is, everybody's want to. We may not have something, but it's okay. We'll figure it out, and we'll figure out a way to get done what we need to get done to be able to have sustained success.
Well, talk about figuring out a way and getting what you need. College sports in the last few years has gotten absolutely crazy. For an old school guy like me, I think you and I are about exactly the same age. I know the nil stuff, the revenue sharing. Uh, how is that impacting A State? Because we aren't a Big Ten school or not a Big 12 school that can say, hey, I'm going to pay the quarterback $500,000 to advertise for my car dealership.
Yeah. Look, the fluidity that has occurred in college athletics over, let's say from the pandemic on, because really that was an inflection point where everybody realized that, hey, if we're going to keep existing, we have to make sure we continue to compete and play and put a product on the field. If we had shuttered our doors during that period of time, many of these programs, would be, I wouldn't say they wouldn't exist, but they wouldn't look like they are now. So I would say, the last 4 or 5 years, it's been very volatile. As you look at, where we sit in that space, certainly there's, conferences or institutions that have more, but we are finding our own ways to carve out our own niche in that space. We are participating in RevShare. We're going to again, will continue to grow that bucket of money that we're able to compensate players and attract them or retain them here at Arkansas State. That will continue, and in some ways, I kind of like where we're situated because we're not a final product yet, and we're still working on being that better version of ourselves, and that will come. As we, for you and I, players making $1 million, yeah, that is different than what I grew up with. It's not necessarily in line necessarily with what I think college athletics was intended to be, but that's what we've evolved into, and so we have to find a way to find our place in that niche, and I think we're doing that. The good thing about the Sun Belt is you don't have big outliers. It's not like when where I'd been previously, maybe you had a big state institution that was gobbling at 3 or 4 times as much the resources as we were. And so, with us in the Sun Belt, everybody's about the same. So I know competitive balance is there, and I know that we can be at the top end of that, competing for championships in every sport year in, year out.
It's a great attitude to have, and it's played itself out in the championships and the runs we've had in the major sports and even the minor sports. You talk about the Sun Belt. Every year you see these teams switch conferences. You see somebody get gobbled up into another conference. I mean, I don't even know what the Pac-10, Pac-12. I can't even keep track. I'm a Big Ten guy, and the fact that Rutgers and Oregon can play each other and call it a conference game just blows my mind. Is the Sun Belt, I guess, for lack of a better term, safe? Are we looking at maybe losing teams the next couple of years, these bigger conferences?
Obviously, Texas State just went to the Pac-12 or the new version of the Pac-12 that was announced within the last month. I think the Sun Belt feels more stable. It has found its niche of we're a road trip league, which frankly college athletics should be and needs to be. The whole point of this was, get in a car, go play a game on Saturday, come back, you're having coffee or breakfast with your friends on Sunday or Monday in the office, and you're talking trash and having a good time about it. And to your point, I don't think flying halfway across, frankly, all the way across the country for a conference game and particularly in non-revenue sports, that it's more difficult to charter or find the efficiencies in travel so those kids aren't losing class time and those things. We're losing our way with that a little bit. But I think the Sun Belt is really well positioned where, it's still true to itself and still able to keep those rivalries and regionality in play. Adding La Tech as a replacement to Texas State was a no-brainer, very logical. Now the question is, if somebody else leaves, what's that next team out there? It gets a little bit thinner. There's less obvious choices. But, I like where we are. And frankly, I think what you're going to see before you see the Sun Belt be challenged would be what happens at those bigger leagues. As you see stratification on the Big Ten and the SEC, what are the top teams in those leagues doing versus the bottom teams in those leagues, and how do they compete consistently? And what decisions are made by those institutions at that point? I think that's going to be a pretty big step here in the next few years of another round of realignment or compression in the market with realignment.
It's interesting. Just every year you watch just what happens, where they're going to fall. It's almost like in the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. Who's going to end up hot stove, as they say. So
great analogy.
You came into this. You had a new basketball coach, first year basketball coach for men's coming in. Renovations at the baseball stadium. I mean, you come in right before football season. What do you do first? You got so many things.
Shoot the closest tank. That's what I keep telling everybody. I borrowed that from a friend of mine I used to work with. There's a lot to get done. Obviously, making sure Ryan is supported in getting up and running as he gets his program going, but also making sure that we're paying attention to what's coming this fall with football, soccer, volleyball, all our fall sports. You know, we have to be conscious and really support football and basketball because of the revenue that's associated with those programs and the need to make sure we're meeting our budget goals. And so for me, it's, hey, Butch, getting around him, being around him, making sure he's supported. Frankly, all our coaches and student athletes, trying to spend a lot of time meeting them and getting them to know me, and then at the same time getting our internal staff, getting people in the right seats on the bus, clearly defining roles, and getting this thing out of the barn and rolling forward down the road. We got more work to do, but there's nothing that I've seen here at A State in the last month that makes me go, oh my gosh, what have I done? Where am I? Everything here is right in front of us, and in within the norms of things that you need to address and solve, and that really gets me excited because there are things that we all know how to do, and I know that we can be really good at them, and we can put a great product on the field and have an incredible game day environment and really bind ourselves to this community and make sure we're what the community wants to support and champion and relish.
Go get some wins. So you come at this from an athletics background. I mean, you're the AD, antiquated term now apparently, but you played football at UH, so you understand the athlete's position. And then I have to imagine, now that you're an administrator and have been for a number of years, on Saturdays, do you get the itch? Do you just think, oh, I could have laid that guy out?
Oh yeah, it doesn't leave you. It's ADs kind of break down into two pockets. There's sideline guys, and then there's guys that are up in the box. I'm a sideline guy, much like probably Mahajer was before me, and probably others in between. Yeah, you feel it. I can. It was last week. It was the first football practice. I think it was Wednesday. They were practicing out on the grass. And you're walking out there and you smell the grass has been mowed. You can hear the pads popping, whistles, coaches yelling, and it feels right. It's a special place. There's nothing like it. You've been around sports your whole life as well, and there's nothing like, especially when no one's around and you're out watching practice, and those are special moments. And game day is even more so because you're at the stadium, everybody's there. It's the focal point of the community that day. You can smell the barbecue pits out in the street, outside. Everybody's got their music blasting, and everybody rallies together inside the stadium for that, 3.5 hours to, cheer their butts out and get a win on the field. And that to me that's honestly, that's my biggest challenge, is making sure we get people out of their houses, watching TVs on a 70, inch television, sitting on their couch with air conditioning, and get them into the stadium and where they can feel that energy. And that energy 100% translates to the field and affects winning. And that's what I tell our kids all the time. We have to give them something to cheer about. And when we do that, those things ping off each other, and all of a sudden you got something really special.
The energy is palpable out there. So now you were a linebacker, right?
Yeah, you could call me that. Slow.
Okay. You were a fullback. I poked
Yes,
around
sir.
a little bit. Can I tell you a couple stats I found on
Sure.
you? Did you
Oh,
return
geez.
a couple of punts at one point? Because
Well,
your punt return stats are fantastic. I mean, I think I've got you at like 19.5 yards per punt return in your college career.
what it was is I was pretty good at blocking kicks. So I think my junior and senior year, I blocked like 7 punts and field goals. And so I was able to fall on one, and it counted as a return. And I was literally about to have a touchdown, and one of my buddies pushed me out of the way and fell on the ball in the end zone. I'm still mad at him to this day. But no, it was not me running the ball. It was me falling on the ball is what it was. But I was pretty good at getting through the line and blocking it.
Stats don't lie, man. Stats don't lie. People do. All right, you can keep the
Yes,
story.
sir.
But also, did you get to run the ball one time for a negative 1 yard?
I did. It was God, I can't believe you found that. There's worse stats out there, unfortunately. I maybe scored a couple times when I was deep snapping and I wasn't supposed to, but yeah. So when I was this is kind of funny. So we ran run and shoot, and back then this was the early iterations of tempo offense. So our offense did everything at the line. I played with David Klinger, Andre Ware. I played in Little Rock against Quinn Grovey in Arkansas back in the '80s, late '80s. So the offense used to come to line, and everything was hand signed. So my freshman year, I was a scrub like everybody was, and so I was running scout team. But I picked up the hand sign, so I knew everything. So I knew what plays were coming. So my senior year, John Jenkins was our head coach. He was a little bit of a wild card, and I was wearing him out. And we were beating somebody pretty good. I was like, "Hey, look, if we get up by X, you got to let me run the ball," because I knew the signs. Well, what they didn't tell me was they were going on two, and so I actually got an illegal procedure. The defense declined the penalty so they could get the ball back. But I got tripped up. The center missed the block. Otherwise, there was a huge hole. I would have scored. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Because you were that fast. Your feet were
That's
that
ex-
fast. They were
Amen.
broke ankles out there, as they say. Andre Ware,
Absolutely.
I guess I saw how Andre Ware had nice things to say about you getting this gig here in Jonesboro, and it didn't even click on me now until you said, yeah, he would have been there same time as you. So that's really cool. Well, let's talk about your family for a second. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
because that's one of the things we value here. I got the chance to meet you and your lovely wife, Marisol, and your daughter, Sarah. Uh, um, tell me about your family beyond what
Yep.
the names I just threw out there.
You know, um, we're really blessed. I've got a wonderful wife who's incredibly patient with me, as most wives are that work with husbands or spouses or significant others in this profession. We've been together 26 years, going on 27 years this fall. We close on our house tomorrow here in Jonesboro, so I'm going to pick her up at the airport after this. So we're excited about that. But we've got three great kids. Our oldest is Seth. He works with the football team at Houston, working for Coach Fritz. Our middle one is going to be a senior at Texas State, so I've told her she can't wear any of that Texas State stuff around the house anymore. And then our youngest is going to be a sophomore at Oklahoma. And you'll see them a lot this fall. We'll get them up here to Jonesboro to come to games. For us, it's, this profession is very much consuming.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful that they allow me the privilege of having the opportunity to do this, because there's so many times I'm gone. It's late nights. I'm on the phone, or you bring work home with you all the time because that's the way it is. But it's been kind of fun because as I've matured in this role and they've gotten older, just to hear them ask pretty sophisticated questions about sports or college athletics, and being able to answer them and have them be able to fire questions back at me that are pretty astute has been rewarding and humbling at the same moment, because a lot of times I don't have answers. But it's been a really rewarding journey for all of us, and it's taken us some really amazing places. Getting to work at your home, at your alma mater in this role is not. It's something you always hope you have the chance to do, and not ever sure that you get that chance. And for them to get to share that with me was really cool. And then also living out in Northern California was a really interesting experience. A lot different than Texas in a lot of ways, good and bad, right? But the experiences they had is something that you can't ever replicate. And with my wife, we've been able to literally travel the world with this job. We took a football team to Sydney, Australia to play a game, and we went with our basketball team to Italy, which are all just amazing experiences that I couldn't say I would have the chance to do any other way.
That's incredible. And I have to say, like I said, I was, been reading up on you guys the last, couple of weeks. Please help me pronounce your wife's maiden name.
Yeah, good luck. It's Guillemandegi, and I don't even get it right. So her dad is art.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
What is this? I have to ask.
Well, yeah. So her family's Argentinian, and so when I called her dad, who lives in Buenos Aires, and he's actually he immigrated to the U.S. and he's passed away a few years ago. Just everything's good. But I remember calling him to ask for permission to marry his daughter, and I'm calling. I'm like, how the heck am I going to say this? Dr. Guillemandegi. And I was a little tongue tied and sweating and twisted, but it worked out.
Well, you get tongue-tied and sweaty and twisted just asking Mr. Smith to marry his daughter.
Yes, sir.
Say that name
Yeah,
again. Gillimadegi?
Gilliamandegi. Yes, sir.
Wow.
A lot of vowels, a lot of consonants.
Would not have come up with that. Well, and before we go, I mean, you're coming in pretty much like the perfect time because you get to be part of something that this state, this community's been waiting for literally forever. Arkansas versus Arkansas State here in Little Rock in a couple weeks. I mean, you're coming out of the chute on fire. I mean, how excited are you to be the AD that gets to see this first one?
It's really humbling to be honest with you. When I took the job, I knew the game was on the schedule, but I didn't realize the significance of it being the first game between the two institutions. And it's interesting. We dealt with that where I came from with Texas. They wouldn't play us for a long time. I mean, it was since the Southwest Conference broke up, frankly. And being able to come here and have an opportunity to take our team to Little Rock and play Arkansas is such a special opportunity. And you know, I can't speak to the pressures that UA has or anything like that, but from my perspective, games in state, they mean too much to the state to not have them happen.
Mhm.
And we need to use these as a way to unify each other. We're all trying to do the same things. We're all, at the end of the day, we're trying to educate
Right.
young people and provide a service to our state. And we need to be thoughtful of that when we make these decisions. The economic impact that can bring to Little Rock or to cities on when we have these games is significant. And then just the civic pride that we have the ability to instill leading up to the game. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talked about it
Yeah.
since I've been here. And that's what it's supposed to be, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so hopefully we're smart enough to get out of our own way and figure out a way to keep this going.
All right. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us in the JBR download. Once again, welcome to Jonesboro. We're thrilled to have you. I've heard nothing but good things since you got to town, and we're just so excited to get this season started. And I guess your tenure already officially started on the paycheck, but at least get some events going and just really
Yes, sir.
just turn this sucker out.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to being on it. Anytime you need me, I'm here. Once my family gets here full time, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll see us around and can't wait to really immerse ourselves in the community and the community of Arkansas State and have a wonderful time here. We're very blessed and thankful for this opportunity, and thank you for having me today.
Great. Chris, thank you very much. Chris Pesman, the new athletic director, vice chancellor of student athletics, or whatever the official title is from Arkansas State. We'll call him the AD. We'll call him Pez.
That
Chris,
works.
thank you very much. Have a great
All
day.
right.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you check out the descriptions in the box below. And if you're checking us out on Apple or Spotify, don't miss those show notes.